Alright, it's Candace Casey. I haven't done a video since my rights to my son Nicholas were terminated. Um, my father and stepmother are now legally my son's parents. I had a feeling that this was going to happen. The judge, however, made it clear from his decision that it was not based on our inability to parent because we have been successfully parenting another child, but rather that his decision was based solely on the passage of time and that there is no longer a strong bond between myself, my husband, and my son. I'm hoping that when we appeal the decision, that it might possibly be reversed based on the grounds that in the beginning of our case, there was a very strong bond between us and our child, and we made every effort to visit him as often as possible within the duration of the past 2 years. And the department, and at this point the foster parents, I feel, have done everything in their power to sever that bond. I really don't want to blame my father for what has happened. I did ask my father for help. But in retrospect, it just seems as if my father really stopped even claiming me as his daughter after he got custody of my son. I know this really isn't out of the norm for me and my relationship with my dad. We've never really gotten along, and I honestly feel a lot of our problems stem from the fact that we're far more similar, I think, than my father would like to admit. We can both be very stubborn, very strong-willed, and we happen to have opposing viewpoints on a lot of things. The one thing that I am grateful for is that my son is with family, and even though he's adopted, if he stays with my father, he will have some idea of who he is. That is, assuming that my father tells him the truth about where he came from. I can't help but feel that, a lot of what was done in this case qualifies as discrimination, and I can't help but feel that my original attorney, Thomas K. Cook, misrepresented me in the fact that he led me to believe that if we agreed to a guardianship, a termination of parental rights would not take place. And at a couple of the last videos, I think I've mentioned my son's attorney, Michael Fagaldi. Well, Mr. Fagaldi's job, as I understood it, was to represent my child. But what I have noticed when I have gone to court, and that's not only when I go in, for court with my son, but also when I have gone to different court events for my husband. And I've noticed that Michael Fagaldi, though he seems a very competent attorney, appears to me as a mother kind of alarming in the sense that I have seen him do a better job of representing the criminals that he is appointed to defend than he does the innocent children left in his charge. And as a mother, that's something that greatly concerns me. Foster children are the most vulnerable members of our society. And a lot of people have a tendency to think that if you're a foster child, then your life is not worth anything. Since my father happens to be a foster parent, and I happen to have had friends who grew up in foster care, as well as the fact that my husband himself is adopted, I feel like I know enough personal experience of foster children to know that foster children are some of the most unique individuals in our society. They are people who have amazing stories to tell if you will listen to them. And I really would like for biological parents and foster parents to form an alliance The one thing CPS doesn't want, the one thing the state doesn't want is for foster parents and biological parents to get along. Because if biological parents and foster parents get along and they show a united front, that shows a very strong support network for the foster child. And it means that the foster child has, two families at least in his corner. And that's more than a lot of, biological children who live with their own parents have. Now, my father didn't raise me. And I'm not attacking my father by claiming that he didn't raise me. I am just stating, a fact. The thing of it is, though, that I grew up under a legal guardianship. My grandfather was my legal guardian until I was 12 years old. And when I turned 12, my Uncle Roger, because my grandmother was getting ill and my grandfather was getting older, assumed guardianship of me. Now, to a lot of people, yes, I had a very unconventional upbringing, but I also grew up knowing exactly who my real mother was, exactly who my real father was. And I was allowed to have a relationship with both my mother and my father. And even though my relationship with neither parent was perfect, there were things that I learned and that I take a very great deal of pride in from both of my parents, and I will speak more of that on my next video. Thank you.